Richard Ward is 65 years old. He's a high school graduate, Vietnam War veteran, and father of two. He was raised a Democrat and became a Republican under Reagan. Presently, he's registered with the Independence Party in Minnesota. He's a Tea Party supporter and immigration activist. Okay? And that's Richard Ward. You can't applaud. Robin Monahan, thank you for applauding also, that's precious, is a registered nurse. He served in the U.S. Navy from 1964 to 1968. He's a Vietnam War veteran also. He was a corpsman in the 3rd Marine Corps, so that's Navy and Marines. April 1967 to April 1968. Robin's goal is the restoration of our Constitution to we the people and the reversal of the Supreme Court's opinion that corporations are people and entitled to the same rights as human citizens. Robin Monahan. Robin, your opening statement.
Thank you, Robin. Good evening. My name is Robin Monahan. I am representing an opinion from a participant with the Occupy movement. And my opinion comes through my own unique perspective and from what I have seen in the Occupy movement as a participant. What am I doing here? And that's a question I often ask myself when trying to speak in front of others. Because nothing in my formal education, my life experience, has prepared me to be here. So what am I doing here? Let me tell you a little bit about how I got here. I am a Minnesota guy, born in Grand Rapids, graduated high school, International Falls, graduated from St. Scholastica right here in Duluth. So the point is, I feel as just a common person, for 37 years, or for 67 years, I have been politically inert. That is to say, I would vote in presidential elections, but would not follow the social, economic, or political issues, believing that I could affect so little change myself that it wasn't worth my while to pay attention. But even as the early 70s, after coming back from Vietnam, I did read the Pentagon Papers, published by the New York Times and edited by Daniel Ellsworth. It made me aware of what lies and deceit our government was capable of. And then again, 10 years ago and before, preparing for the war in Iraq, I was seeing those same lies and deceit used again to justify invasion at the cost of thousands of lives. So when the Occupy movement started in last fall of 2011, I was ready to engage. And I am still participating in the Occupy movement, now with Minneapolis when I can, and perhaps more directly with Occupy St. Paul. There are 18 Occupy communities, at least, in Minnesota, as well as hundreds in the nation. From the Occupy movement, I have learned that many people agree that our current systems are broken. They are corrupt, they are bloated, and I have 1 minute left. Many people in the Occupy movement also believe that we are not governed by the people we vote for. The people we vote for have their allegiance to their corporate sponsors, and that it doesn't matter who we vote for. Those people that get elected are supported by corporations. Corporations donate large amounts of money to both parties. I would submit we only have one party, the status quo party. In any case, I am here today because I know that in order to make substantive change in the systems that we have, that we will need to work together, that people will have to link arms with people that don't look like them, talk like them, or even think like them, and I'm here to start some of those conversations today.
Thank you. Richard, you have 4 minutes. One thing I'll say is this is not a stopwatch, so I have to kind of estimate where exactly it is. So if anyone's keeping precise time and it doesn't match, apologies. That's to our ability. So 4 minutes.
I have 4 minutes. I don't know what I'm going to do with the other 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
You don't have to use it.
My name is Richard Ward. I'm 65 years old. I'm a lifelong resident of the Twin Ports. Grew up over in Superior, moved over here in '80, and never left Lake the View. I'm a Vietnam veteran from 65 to 67. High school grad out of Cathedral over in Superior. And I'm here, I guess, because I just, after watching the stuff that went on TV and watching how the media, not attacking anyone in particular, but the media portrays both sides. They always look for the soundbite. They always look for the sign up there that has a real hardcore to it. Anyway, until somebody makes a mistake, and that's what they go ahead and put on TV. And I don't think that that's representative of either group. I think there's some, I'm looking in this audience tonight, and I'm to be very amazed at how many people of my generation are here. Mainly because every time I saw Occupy, I see 20, 25, 30-year-old young people, which was kind of similar to what we saw back in the 60s. So anyhow, my purpose is to put a face, I guess, on the Tea Party. I'm a Tea Party supporter. I don't belong to the Tea Party because they're not card-carrying members, but I do support their philosophy. And I believe there's a lot of people just like me who are everyday, ordinary citizens. And we're concerned about the way our country is going. We're concerned about the economic state of this country. We're concerned about the collapse of our society, basically. You know, everybody's upset about corporations and governments. They're crooked, they're corrupt. Well, think about it. When was the last time somebody had to take an ethics class? You know, we don't have a moral compass anymore in this country. And what people are doing in those positions are doing nothing more than what they believe that they can get away with and do. And our job, I think, is to put people in those positions, elected officials in the area of the government, that have integrity and that do have a moral compass above themselves that they follow. And I think at that point we can start making some changes. You know, but I want to open up a dialogue. Robin and I spent an evening together, and that's how this discussion group here came about. We're on totally opposite sides on so many things, but yet we share a common bond as veterans and a common bond as Americans. I respect Robin, I respect his service, I respect his passion for what he believes and how he got there. And I believe he's very sincere with what he's doing. In my position, I just think he's sincerely wrong. Nothing personal. But that's it. And so if we can have a discussion, I know we got questions coming at us, and I'm really excited to see what I'm going to nail with. But let's get on with this, and I hope everybody at least enjoys themselves this evening.
Thank you. You mentioned part of this in your opening statement, and I did in mine too, about who is affiliated with what. And so I want to get this out of the way right here. And the rules for the rest of the thing is 3 minutes per answer, but 2 minutes rebuttal, but actually I'm going to ask Richard's question, and Robin, I'm going to ask a variation of the question, so it'll be 3 and 3, because you both be getting pretty much just something tailored to you. So for Richard, the question is, you're not a card carrying member of the Tea Party, and there are some people who I think are, if they are card carrying members or whatever, or are expressing themselves as that, as part of the leadership, who are, for lack of a better word, distancing themselves from you, saying that you're not a member. So how are you qualified to speak on behalf of the Tea Party tonight?
I'm not speaking on behalf of the Tea Party. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and the fact that I agree with a lot of the philosophy of the Tea Party. And again, I'm here to demonstrate that we're not, right-wing wingnuts. I have a lot of friends in the Tea Party, personal friends, other than acquaintances that I've met since I've visited some of the rallies and some of the meetings. But I'm not up here to tout the Tea Party so much. I'm up here because I have a philosophical difference with my friend Robin, and apparently quite a few other people. And that's what we're here to talk about, and to get a discussion going. As far as them distancing themselves from me, they're not distancing themselves from me in per se. It's just that they are not sanctioning this particular endeavor. This started in my living room, and from there came to here. So this is Robin and I talking, and hopefully, again in our discussion, people will get something to think about. I have no illusions about changing anybody's mind, but I would like to, again, just put a face on there and just show you that, if you run into a Tea Party person, they're not the devil.
Yeah. Robin, the same question, but a little broader in that is there such thing as an Occupy spokesperson?
The Occupy movement is self-described as a leaderless movement, but there are leaders, and the fact is anyone who shows up can lead, and it's made up of ordinary citizens who have idealistic goals, because to embrace what might be called reality is to get an unshakable grip on mediocrity or a failed, corrupt, and bloated system. So the people of Occupy, by and large, have huge ideals, and calling myself a participant, well, that certainly includes facilitating meetings, giving teach-ins, helping to write core values. I've done those kinds of things. And perhaps more significantly, I show up and I participate in the activities that are done by the Occupy groups. As I said before, there are at least 18 Occupy communities that I know of in Minnesota. And for any one person to claim to speak for the Occupy movement, it would be a great overstatement. It's often said that Occupy doesn't have any goals. Well, that's only because those of you who have goals haven't shown up. But the people who participate in Occupy certainly believe that the Occupy movement has goals and has achieved many of them. If we consider success as the process, the Occupy movement has built a forum where discussion and expression of rage can be expressed. They've built a community where ideas and thoughts and problem solving can be shared, and they have stopped foreclosure on homes successfully by developing and implementing a system whereby the Occupy movement can interact with the banking systems that have foreclosed on so many homes. And my belief is that's even done here in Duluth.
Richard, and this is a question, each panelist submitted questions ahead of time, but the decision to use them or how they would be expressed is up to me. Robin stated in his question that Occupy shares certain values with the Tea Party, which we're hearing tonight. Some, he says, are opposing corporate welfare and supporting local control of government. He also used the word states' rights, which is interesting. Folks on both sides believe that Congress should have a voice in the decision to go to war, and that military spending has become bloated and wasteful. What solutions do you support to fix the bloated and wasteful government?
Wow. I think we agree, again, we agree on the fact that government is out of control, corporate welfare, and those things. I think where our disagreements come in, though, is how do we get there? One of the things that I've talked to Robin about, and I've talked to some other people that I know, members of Occupy, and one of the frustrations I have is that there is no leadership, there is no end game, no goal, end game that I see. And I guess in saying this, and I know that many people out there say, well, you don't understand, when I have it explained to me, you're right, I don't understand. Because I don't understand how you can accomplish what you want to accomplish the way that you're doing it. It's this, I look at this in-your-face activism, I think really just sets everything on edge. And the very people you're trying to reach, which is middle America, that makes the difference. This is something that I think turns a lot of people off. And so I think in that respect, we do agree on things, that things have to be taken care of. But I have no clue about anything. They got people that got more letters after their name than you can shake a stick at. They don't have to worry about that particular problem. I know that we have to address the problems. And that's the thing that is not happening. The dialogue is not going on amongst our elected representatives. And that's what we need to get done. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's me.
Okay. Well, it's actually Robin's question, so he has 2 minutes to rebut that too.
The Occupy has expressed a long-term goal and a short-term goal, interest in a long-term goal and a short-term goal regarding government or military spending. For example, the Occupy supports as a short-term goal the idea of cutting the military budget. Minnesota Arms Spending Alternatives Project, for example, represents one way of redistributing those military funds. For example, Minnesota, in the last 10 years, has contributed $37 billion to the military budget. Let's bring some of that money home. A long-term solution that's been passed, that's been supported by resolutions passed within the Occupy, comes directly from the Move to Amend organization that believes that a constitutional amendment is needed to get big money out of politics because of what the Supreme Court's decided in Citizens United versus the Federal Elections Commission. An amendment to the U.S. Constitution is needed that would say that only human beings have constitutional rights and that money is not speech. And that issue alone is a nexus of so many broader issues, including military spending, that it would be a first step in getting military spending under control.
In your question that you posed to Richard, you used a modifier in front of the word government of corrupt. So is the government corrupt?
Absolutely. And let me expand on that because I have so much time left. When we consider that corporations, large transnational corporations, give campaign financing to both political parties. And when those people that we get to vote for pass legislation that favor those corporate sponsors at the expense of we the people, that sounds incredibly corrupt to me. For example, in 1950, for every dollar that the worker paid in taxes, corporations were paying $3 in 1950. In 2010, for every dollar that the American worker was paying in taxes, corporations were paying 22 cents. Now, that was passed through our legislative bodies. Who are our legislators responding to? Are they responding to we the people, we the taxpayers? I would say not. Are they responding to their corporate sponsors? I would say definitely. And if that is not corruption, I would dearly love to hear somebody else's definition of corruption.
Richard, same question. Is the government corrupt?
I'll echo him. Absolutely. It is. But one of the solutions that we have is we can remove these people.
You speak louder, please.
One of the tools that we have at our disposal is that we can remove these people. If it's a congressman, we can take them out every 2 years. If it's a senator, we can take them out every 6 years. If it's a president, every 4. Yet we keep rubber stamping these professional politicians, and everybody goes by party line. In this area, you're a Democrat, no question about it. Doesn't matter what the man or the woman stands for or is, nobody looks into that anyhow. You running on the Democratic ticket? Okay, I'll vote for you. Republicans are the same way, don't get me wrong. They'll vote for a Republican just because they hear the name Republican. We need to sit down and look at the people that we're sending them to these offices to represent us. And if they don't represent us, then we need to remove them. And I don't care if they're a Democrat or a Republican. Because first of all, whether they're a Democrat or a Republican, they're an American. And we're Americans. They're to take care of us, not the other way around. In that respect, don't get me wrong. I do not want more government. But they are to represent us. And when they don't represent us, we have the right to take them out of office and elect somebody new. So as far as that process is concerned, I think we have a process that works, but we don't use it. We're just comfortable with sending people back there time after time.
Robin from Richard is edited. What do you perceive to be Occupy's vision, and will its tactics convince any large number of people to embrace it?
The vision is for a more just society. What that will look like remains to be seen. Let me remind you that the Occupy movement is a social movement. Other social movements have been things like abolition of slavery, women's right to vote, workers' right to organize, black persons and women's access to equal rights. Those are all social movements. And when we talk about social movements, we need to remind ourselves that those previous social movements have occurred over decades. Slavery was not solved in a day, or a week, or 6 months. The Occupy movement, we could say, is approximately 7 months old. As a baby, it's still shitting in its diapers. This, with the way it is, and I recognize there is a lot of disunity, even about what action we should take. But it's a very young movement, and it's people by and large by young people. It will take time to grow. It will take time to organize. If it maintains its leaderless policy, that will be difficult, but not impossible. Let's have this conversation again next year and in 10 years and see what the movement looks like then. I believe that this is not a movement that is going away. This, let's see, there was a lot to that question.
And you have 30 seconds.
Yeah, let me...
Well, the major point, I would even allow you to exit 30. Do you expect a large number of people, given the tactics that Occupy uses, to embrace it?
Occupy has been experimenting with tactics, and Occupy will learn what works and what doesn't. I do expect that the Occupy movement will continue to grow.
Richard, you laughed at that. You have 2 minutes.
I'm having a moment, a senior moment here. So would you repeat your question there, Rob?
The question was yours too, so. Sorry about that. What do you perceive to be Occupy's vision, and will its tactics convince any large number of people to embrace it?
Well, I don't know what Occupy's vision is. As far as the tactics, I can only go out and look at what I see. I see an Occupy rally. I see 15, 20 people. And they're the same 15 or 20 people you see all the time. And I'm not disparaging anyone. You know, those guys, give them credit, they show up. But if you're asking, are these tactics reaching out into the community? No, I don't see that. I'm sure people would argue about that, but like I say, I don't think the type of in-your-face confrontations that seem to follow this, and I think this is kind of like a new thing with protesting now, but I don't think that that's going to resonate at all. And if anything, it's going to turn people to indifference or a cold shoulder.
Basically, answer the question Robin had about corporate personhood. I think we've addressed that, so I'm going to substitute one of my own here. And this is for Richard. I'll have 3 minutes for Richard, and instead of a 2-minute rebuttal, I have a question tailored for you, which will be 3 minutes also. So the question is, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I do believe the Tea Party endorses candidates, or at least they certainly support candidates. For instance, Michelle Bachmann gave the Tea Party response to the State of the Nation address. So, in addition to the Republican and Democratic addresses. Given that it's unlikely that the Tea Party would support President Obama for his re-election, it's unlikely they would support any of the Democratic candidates for the 8th Congressional District. How would Mitt Romney and Chip Quebec accomplish anything toward what you just said about corrupt government? Reforming that corrupt government.
Well, I guess, you know, looking at Chip, he's a new member of Congress. When you look at what he's done so far as I believe he's been in office, a year and a half, something like that, or whatever, but he's had over 120 town halls. I feel that he is very committed and concerned to the constituency here, and it is his goal to help better this particular district. And I think, you know, as long as he keeps an honest, open door, that's the way you beat corruption. You just don't you listen to the people that put you there, not to the people that are up there. And so, as far as Mitt Romney is concerned, as a president, wow. Well, he gets to start at the top, and he could literally clean house, you know, except for the elected officials. But I think a lot of the corruption, a lot of the problems that we're having are also part of the organizations that you have that don't have elected officials running them. And I'm talking about our Energy Commission.
Could you speak louder, please?
There's some agencies, I think, that have led to a lot of corruption in government. They're unregulated, I think. They're not oversaw by anybody, and they basically just go about their own way. And I think some of the agencies that are famous for that are the EPA. And some others. Again, you know, I apologize to you people. But when we came here, like I said, I'm not here to give statistics or facts or things. I'm here to tell you why I believe what I believe, and I think that this is the thing that I want to go into. I appreciate Robin's digging out all this information, coming up with all this. He's much better prepared for this than I was. But anyhow, I don't know how you solve the problem of corruption in government other than to put people that have integrity and a moral compass in that position, and then support them so that they can make the right decisions.
Your variant of the same question, Robin, is Occupy, to my knowledge, does not support candidates. So if you don't support an Obama or a guy named Nathan Ness, perhaps, how in the world do you expect to achieve some of the reforms that, frankly, they seem to be in alliance with you, especially if the other guys get in?
Occupy does not expect to make changes in this election cycle. Substantive changes may not occur within 2 or 3 election cycles. What needs to happen first is to have big money out of politics so that election campaigns can be based on discussion about current topics, current issues, current problems, with said discussions not being buried and silenced by an avalanche of money. Because when transnational corporations come to the table with large amounts of money, either for or against a candidate, it stifles any conversation and every facet of what we would like to think as the democratic process. When you are looking at your ballot and you hold your nose because both candidates stink, you might decide to vote for the lesser of 2 evils. But let me remind you, you are still voting for evil. The candidate that you get to vote for will not be representing you. They will be representing your corporate sponsors. The Occupy movement will not be endorsing any candidate, certainly not in this election cycle. And I don't know, I can't speak about 4 years from now or 10 years from now or whatever. But I think the Occupy movement is still looking for people willing to support some of these initiatives that they support. And we'll have to wait and see.
For Richard from Robin, our tax dollars pay for government programs including highways, Social Security, the VA, Medicare, schools, police, and fire protection. We had a lot more on that list. The Tea Party is known for austerity. which of these programs would you cut to avoid America falling into socialism?
Like most Tea Partiers, I would say we don't have to eliminate any programs. Number one, all of us are on the same ship. You know, we all have family members. We've all been through hard times ourselves. We support each other, and that's what we do. That's probably the old people up here, isn't it? Again, I'm not going to ask you.
What would you cut? The Social Security, VA, Medicare?
I wouldn't cut any of them, but we can streamline all of them. You know, and I think once we streamlined them and got them down to where they were originally set up to be, Social Security being the safety net for those people that would find themselves in a position later on. By the way, I'm on Social Security, and I'm grateful for it. But we've added so many things to this that we've created an entity that cannot be sustained. And most of our social programs have gotten to the point where we can no longer sustain them. And so I would say you look at the ones that are the most important, you streamline them, you consolidate the overlaps, the redundancy, and eliminate those things that are not necessary. And I think you'll find that there'll be a lot of money that'll be saved in all of these programs and be available for those that we do have priorities. I want a quick comment on the defense budget. How would you cut it? Until you have a debate on what our national policy and what our national security is all about, how do you cut the defense budget? We don't even know what kind of war we're going to fight. We don't know what we're defending. Until that decision is made, I don't think you can have any real discussion on how to cut the military budget, because we just don't know where to start. So my best advice for that is keep us out of wars, so we don't belong in. And if you don't attack us directly, we don't belong there. So, I'm done.
Robin, 2 minutes.
I especially like what Richard Ward said in his last 30 seconds. When the people making decisions for the United States to go to war and the management of that war have an invested interest in the outcome, it is not a good idea. And it seems that the people who benefit most from endless war are the large transnational corporations and the very wealthy. The U.S. government appears to me to be nothing more than a conduit for our for our tax dollars that go to large war profiteering corporations. As the United States government has reduced the size of its army, all of a sudden, instead of the paid army that has some responsibility, we find that in Iraq there are more State Department contractor mercenaries than there are soldiers. These expensive mercenaries are being paid for by your tax dollars. And does that support the state policy, State Department policy, or is there some hidden agenda policy that we don't know about?
Okay, although you hit the time, you both sort of hit on the next question, which was specifically on defense spending. So, given what you just said, actually, how do you cut defense spending? And I hear what you're saying about corporate interests and people who have a vested interest of keeping wars going. But is there a stable situation in Afghanistan? Can we just pull out?
We cannot cut defense spending until we get big money out of politics. Because the people that make these decisions have a vested interest in the outcome. And at the moment, there is no interest and no vision to change the status quo. We have one political party, and that is the status quo party. The people that we have elected or appointed in all three branches of our government have no vision for a more just society. They were all elected or appointed under the current system, which is corporate governed. There will be no change, no military budget cuts until we, following the move to amend suggestion, we pass a constitutional amendment that says only human beings have constitutional rights and that money is not speech and can be regulated. I still have another minute. Should I say that again?
Sometimes less is more. Richard, you have 2 minutes.
I get 2 minutes. Well, if you want to cut defense spending, I think one of the most obvious things is don't give the military what they don't want. You sit down and we've got districts in this country that have suppliers, defense contractors, and they come up with something that they want to sell the military, and they get their congressman or senator involved, and they go ahead and they push this project through whether the military wants it or not. Costs a couple $100 million or a couple $1 billion, and then they scrap it. There's lots of things we can do to cut military spending. We can get in there and look at it, and again, the same thing. You take a knife to it and cut out the waste, cut out the fat. But in the same token, we cannot bring our military down to a place where it would be dangerous for us. We need to be in a position to defend our nation, defend our friends. That's what, and if we do that, you know, I think we can come to a place where you can cut military spending, define the role of the military implicitly, and then go ahead at that point and make cuts and configure a military that is going to meet the needs of this nation. And so in 30 seconds, I'm going to wind this whole thing up right now. I don't have anything else to say about it.
For Richard, this one's from me. I can be assured of diversity at this event because I was invited. Everybody get that? Why don't I seem to see that in any other Tea Party event, or at any Tea Party event?
I'm sorry.
Why don't I seem to see any measurable degree of diversity, ethnic particularly, at most Tea Party events?
Okay, I think I can answer that one. Locally, I think it's demographics. Most people of color in this community will be Democrats, and they're not going to come to a Tea Party rally or organization. They would be very welcome if they did. But again, with demographics and the way that this particular community is structured politically, you're not going to see very many people cross over. And I tell you though, I think that's part of the problem. That's again, it goes back to that, you know, we're just going to go ahead and vote for this person because they belong to this party, irregardless of what we know about them or what they're going to do at all. So until we start opening ourselves up to recognize the fact that we have a political system. I disagree with Robin on the sense that we can't elect people of integrity. And again, we should be seeking those people out. I think if that's Occupy's position, it's pretty cynical. We need to make change. We need to make change now. We don't have 4 years. We don't have 8 years or 12 years to wait until things kind of work their way out. If we wait that long, we're not a country anymore.
You don't need your extra minute. Robin, a 2-minute rebuttal, but I need to tailor the question toward your group a little, or your affiliate, which is to say, I don't see a lot of diversity at Occupy either, particularly in Duluth. And as Richard just said, there are people of color in Duluth. And in fact, they seem to be more fellow traveler with some of the positions that your group takes. So where are they?
I'm at a loss for words, but getting back on track, I also have observed that the Occupy that I participate with, which by and large is the Twin Cities, where there is greater diversity, my thought about the lack of diversity is this. This is not an official Occupy observation, this is my own. And that is, as the privileged white males, we are late to discovering our oppression. People of color, people of disability, women, have all been struggling with social issues for a long time. And those issues still have to be defended. I think when the Occupy movement has some credibility, that they're here to stay. I participated May 1st in the Twin Cities, and there was a great participation with the immigrant community, which by and large was Spanish speakers, but also there was a speaker from Somalia that spoke. We had over 400 people in the street marching on Lake Avenue that convened in Powderhorn Park to hear the various speakers. So diversity will come with time, but is not here today so much.
Well, we've actually concluded the questions, and I think we have time, and whatnot, for a closing statement. And plan on it, if you'd like. Would you like one? A closing statement of, let's say, 3 minutes apiece.
Drop it away? I'll take a second.
About how long?
3 minutes.
3. I need lunch.
Thank you so much for being here. It's important that we talk to each other. The ideal of a democracy requires an educated electorate, an engaged electorate. The electorate, that's you people. And to be engaged, you have to show up. And you have all showed great courage and commitment to be here where anything could happen. And my hope is that something did happen. But ask yourself who your neighbor is. And do you love your neighbor? Perhaps some of you don't come from a faith-based community. But you don't have to believe that it's important to take care of each other, even if each other includes people that don't look like you, people that don't speak like you, people that don't even think like you. This is what democracy requires, and it is not easy. It is so much easier to be a heckler, heckling the Occupy movement or the Tea Party, than it is to be a participant in something that you want to be peaceful and respected. That's where the hard work is. And you have all shown great respect and great courage to be here today. I think that's probably all I want to say about closing remarks. Look at these two initiatives and decide if either one is something that you would like to support. Look at Tea Party and really look at it. There are parts of it that are important. There are parts of it that are worthy to embrace. But let's keep it moving. Let's move society toward a more democratic society where we are all more engaged without being suffocated by large amounts of money.
Richard, 3 minutes for the last word.
Echoing Robin, I want to thank everybody for being here. For me, it was kind of unique because I really had no idea what I'd be walking into. But I look around and I see a lot of people I know. And this is what it's all about anyhow, because I have friends that are in the Occupy Party, and we do sit down and talk. I have friends in the Tea Party, and we talk about things. And I'm not going to allow these political issues that we have create a problem where we can no longer even communicate or sit down and have a civil discussion with each other. Yeah, we're going to differ. We're all going to differ. And that's great. That's what makes us, I think, who we are. The fact that we can go through stuff like this. We can go through elections every 4 years. And we don't have to declare martial law. We don't have mortars landing in the White House lawn or on the bridge. You know, I mean, we live in a wonderful country. We have a wonderful system. Just because people abuse it doesn't make it any less significant. It's up to us to take the steps necessary to eliminate the abuse, to get it on to the fact that we are all Americans, whether you are a Democrat or a Republican. And for us to, again, remain as a country, there's some issues that need to be dealt with and dealt with immediately. And because of all the procrastination or just refusal to acknowledge it because you're trying to get elected the next time, we have a financial crisis in this country that's not going away. We have an unemployment crisis in this country that is not getting any better. Those things need to be taken care of now, not 4 years from now, not 5 years from now. It needs to happen real soon. And so thank you guys for coming out, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank the Minnesota Armed Spending Alternative Project for bringing this all together. And I'm glad we could have a discussion, and nobody booed Robin and nobody booed me. At least with the microphones on. We'll see what happens after we go.
Again, just applaud and give another round of applause to both of our panelists. And if we have, I have to say for the open period, we have a list of people who want to speak for what should be 2 minutes apiece. And if we don't have that, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you, Robin. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Hi, I'm Bob Monahan. Offered to help out here, run the open mic because I've got so much charisma and charm. I guess 3 minutes per speaker. We've got just a short list of, looks like some good speakers on here. So if anybody else wants to sign up, I'll be hovering around. You can come and do it. First up is Alan Richardson.
Good evening. I hope you will indulge me. As you may know, I was originally scheduled to be one of the debaters, but my opponent from the Tea Party declined to participate. Let me just say that I'm a creature of the institutional left, and so there are some Occupy folks who might question whether or not that makes me a legitimate spokesperson for Occupy, but I do love me some Occupy. It's not the rich against the poor, it's the criminally rich against everyone else. I would refer folks to Thomas Frank's book, Pity the Billionaire, which is a fine refutation of the Tea Party's reason for existing. I would also refer people to author Tom Hartman, who you probably already know with this crowd, a fine author on the subject of corporate personhood, who reminds us that the Boston Tea Party was a revolt not against the government, but against the largest corporation on earth at the time, the British East India Company. To me, the central issue is whether free market capitalism has any credibility. The Tea Party somehow made the case that after 30 years of deregulation and union busting, the problem was not free market capitalism, but that free market capitalism had never been tried. The result is elected officials like Chip Kravac. Personally, I am pro-culture war, and I'm pro-class war. The Tea Party's signature characteristic is belligerence, and we saw this on tax day at the Senior Center and at the Civic Center. I think the videotape tells the story about which side was trying to be disruptive and trying to instigate violence. I'm quite adamant on that point, and I'm happy to discuss it in detail as to exactly what happened at both the Senior Center and the Civic Center. Personally, I'm not super interested in finding common ground with the Tea Party, who seem to be culturally incapable of assigning blame to any private interest, like the marauding banks who crashed the economy. The Tea Party, as red-blooded Americans, have every right to be wrong about everything. But I think people holding those beliefs should not be in public office. I want to speak quickly to one question was raised about whether Occupy's tactics are effective. Here in Duluth, Project Save Our Homes today just saved their 4th or 5th house, and they are an outgrowth of Occupy. I would genuinely like to know how the Tea Party thinks I can keep Monsanto's untested genetically engineered food off my plate without government regulation. I'd like to know what market mechanism would motivate BP to maintain a functioning blowout preventer. I'm going to go a little long here, Bob. And thus avoid catastrophes like we saw in the Gulf. And since even Alan Greenspan admitted he was wrong about the bank's ability to regulate themselves honestly, why we would not re-regulate the banks. And the fact that these industries do not wish to be regulated is irrelevant. This is an important point. And as far as who or what gets streamlined, I would love to streamline Monsanto, BP, and Wells Fargo. Final thoughts. Unlike Occupy, the Tea Party is in elected office. And I've been working to hold Chip Kravac accountable to his constituents since August. Given that the DNT, the Duluth News Tribune, has said that they believe Chip is accountable to his constituents, I would pose this question to Robin Washington. Several days ago, Chip Kravac had an unannounced, private, invitation-only event at Ecumen Nursing Home. Pictures of this event are listed on Chip Kravac's Facebook page as being from a, quote, Duluth Senior Town Hall. I consider this to be fundamentally dishonest. and that we cannot move forward as a country if we cannot even agree if the sky is blue. Given that I know many seniors who would like to discuss the Bryan budget with Chip, Robin, I would like to know, do you think it is honest to represent an unadvertised private event as a town hall? I would ask you, brothers and sisters, to help me hold the Duluth News Tribune to answering that question. Thank you for your time.
Melvin McGree.
Several times the point was raised that our elections are the way they are because of corporate funding. But the thing is, we don't look ourselves in the mirror and ask how often we show up. Ronald Reagan was one of the first minority presidents. He had less than 30% of the eligible voters supporting him. This situation has continued on through Obama, who says minority president, but in the more important way, he's a minority president. He had less than 30% of the voters voting for him. So where are we getting the rest of these people that don't show up? We got Scott Walker because 50% showed up to vote for him, and he's blaming a mandate because he's got about 30% of the voters. Until we get a 90% turnout, we can't really hold our elected officials responsible. So I hope, how many are registered? Come on, are you registered voters? Good. Who's not registered? You're all registered if somebody's not in it. But make sure you vote each and every election. Because if we don't, we're going to be in the situation forever and ever and ever.
Judy Gap.
I didn't want to give a speech. I thought we were going to ask questions. So I don't know if there's anybody here to answer questions anymore, or did both the speakers leave? Can we ask party questions of what views are of these parties or not? No?
I can answer for either of them.
Okay. That would be great. Okay. Today is the National Day of Prayer, so I was wondering where does religion fit in with the views of both of these different groups, and your thoughts on the National Day of Prayer?
Well, if Richard were here, he would say that faith is a fundamental part of the Tea Party and a fundamental reason why, he believes in slashing taxes and putting people into precarious situations due to underfunded programs. Robin is not Christian, and I would assume that he would probably say that it has nothing to do with his political activism.
He does go to church, though.
Okay. Bob could answer for his dad.
No, I can't. That was more of a jestful. Well, that went well.
Jesse Peterson is next.
I thought there was one more before me.
There was.
Oh, gosh.
We dispense with that person.
Hello. I guess it's going to take a lot of restraint not to say a lot of personal things. I'll try and keep this in the Tea Party Occupy thing. I actually have problems with what the person who was representing Occupy had to say, in that it is not as hegemonious as he presented it. The forum of Occupy right now is an assembly where everybody is encouraged to be involved and to come express themselves. And anybody can go like this and stop an idea from going forward. They can say no. And then they are going to be listened to, and they get to represent themselves. And I think that is the spirit that Occupy is carrying forward, which is going to move beyond electoral politics, where we can have direct representation, where we can all come together and everybody can speak their mind, and they don't have to be filtered through a representative that's been elected who could lie, who could be bribed, who could be whatever, and will never represent you as well as you will represent yourself. And some of the differences between the Tea Party and Occupy is in the Tea Party, well, sure, you could be a Muslim black man and show up, but it's probably going to be really uncomfortable when they have a white man get up with a cross around his neck, talk about praising Jesus, say that we're a Christian nation, despite the fact that history says otherwise, denounce all silence and pressure them to be a part of their Christian movement. You know, how exactly is a black Muslim going to feel comfortable being a part of that? It's just ridiculous. Okay, I suppose a gay person can go to a Tea Party movement, but then again, like, why exactly would you want to do that when they're trying to squash your rights, say you can't get married, say you can't love each other, say you're disgusting and everything else? They talked a lot about military spending, they talked a lot about electoral politics, but what they didn't talk about is culture. You're not going to be a comfortable gay person at a Tea Party rally. They're aggressively attacking them. At Occupy events, you come and you're part of an assembly, and regardless of your background, you get a chance to speak, and you're guaranteed your chance to speak, because the whole thing now, more than is titled Occupy, that's just the name of the event that occurred because of an Adbusters article on Wall Street. What it's become is assemblies where everybody can come and speak as equals and gets their turn to speak and gets their concerns addressed before a decision moves forward to do something in your community. That doesn't happen at a Tea Party rally. That's not the case. There's a pluralism in Occupy. There's not a clear mandate. People do want to do something before the next election. People don't just want to focus on these issues. It's everybody's issues brought to the table. Everybody getting to speak, everybody getting to stand up. And I think it's ridiculous when the guy says, you know, anybody's welcome at a Tea Party rally. Well, really? You know, what about the black Muslim, the gay person, or whatever? They're not welcome there. Unless they redefine themselves to the Tea Party values, they're not welcome there. You come to an Occupy rally and you get to push forward your values, and you get to sound off other people, and you're going to get feedback, and you're going to evolve. Kind of like a debate, but a more meaningful one involving more people. And that's a huge difference, and I guess that's where I'll stop. Thank you.
Okay, Manfred Hager, you've got 2 minutes for a rebuttal.
All right, basically the only thing that I heard up here tonight was that we need to get money out of it. All right, who here marks the little box saying, I will give my $3 to election funds? Yeah, or a tax form.
Yeah, it doesn't affect your tax income.
No, it does not affect. So how come we don't make every politician have that philosophy? To where you do it for city council, even though supposedly it's a non-entity, state government, senator, representative. So therefore you get the money out of the campaigns, and that should solve the majority of the problem of big money.
Hey, Jerry Olson. Okay. Going once. Dan McCollum is next.
I didn't hear anything in tonight's interview. I wasn't here in the beginning, Robin, maybe it was, that defined our speakers as Vietnam veterans and why, as Vietnam veterans, they have got these issues that they're concerned with. But I'm happy to see them involved, because many of us after Vietnam decided to go on the opposite end of public involvement, deniability, and all of that for what we did. My question was for corruption. Both speakers agreed that there was corruption in government. I moved to Minnesota because of some of the things that I value, and education and politics. And I just wanted to ask the speaker who left, but now I see you're still here. Can you speak to Hibbing native and a southern part of the state, Northfield professor, the politics of Governor Rudy Perpich and the politics of Senator Paul Wellstone. And the reason I ask that is I think we need a little bit broader perspective than calling our government system corrupt.
As I think I admitted early on in my opening remarks, I'm totally out of my depth. Arriving late to political activism, I bring a huge burden of ignorance. My pile of unread books at my bedside continues to grow. I would not be able to speak knowledgeably about Paul Wellstone's campaign or his service in the Senate. I certainly was aware that he was elected. I think I voted for him. And I know that he died in a terrible plane crash that may or may not have been an accident. I wish he was here to talk to us and convince us that perhaps his own campaign and his own service in the Senate was not corrupt. I think we have to hope it wasn't. But he was only one senator, a highly esteemed senator to be sure. But how many congressmen are there? Over 400, including House and Senate? So, other than it appears, and if you come back and have something to share, that would be great. But I can only tell you what it appears to me with where our legislation seems to go. It does not go in favor of we the people. When you have cats writing legislation, they tend to be legislation that favors the cats, not the rest of us mice. And that's what I see, and that's what I agree with. And that we've got to quit electing people who perpetuate the status quo, which is not working for most of us. Personally, I live a very comfortable life in a North St. Paul suburb. I have 4 great kids. One of them here is tonight. Where is he? Let me go right here. But from my personal ethic, if you will, I care about my neighbor. No matter what his color, what his language, where he's from. And our government is not taking care of us. The legislation passed does not benefit us. Somebody made a point about GMOs in their food. Do you remember voting for that? No, you didn't get to vote on it. That was legislation written by the large agribusiness, Monsanto, that chemical producer who happens to get into our food in one way or the other. That's legislation that's not passed for the benefit of we the people. It's legislation passed for the benefit of the very few. And if that's not corporation, or yes, it is corporation. If that's not corruption, let's hear your definition of it, and let's call Paul Wellstone exempt from it, because we all thought he did a good job, and he was. We certainly hope he was.
by Jack Nelson Palmer. Authentic hope, it's the end of the world as we know it, but soft landings are still possible. I couldn't read that book for months. I got an advanced copy, I still couldn't read it because the word hope had died for me. Part of the reason why is because, you know, President Obama's crowning achievement was healthcare reform. He sold out to the big health insurance companies. I was working on that campaign for a year. I put in 80 hours a week for a year trying to get healthcare reform passed. We were protesting in front of Blue Cross Blue Shield. And those are the same people, the 1% that he sold out to. And as a result, we have a compromised bill. It would have been better if you hadn't even passed that bill. My issue with the Tea Party is that I can't tell these people enough times that I'm not a Democrat, yet they slander me anonymously on hate blogs. So I wanted to, you know, put this together as a way of saying, come out of your anonymous, cowardly little hole wherever you are, and come here. We're proud to debate. It's not so easy to pigeonhole Robin Monahan. It's not so easy to pigeonhole Richard Ward. We're complex people, and I think we need to start acting like it instead of listening to, oh, I'm either with MSNBC or Fox. We're not that simple. We're much more complicated than that. So, thank you.
Yes, Dad, you can have 1 minute.
There are 2 Minnesota congressmen, that is, in the state legislature. One is Bill Hilty from Finlayson, just down the road. The other one is John Marty. And I used to be in his district, but I haven't looked at the new districting, so I'm not sure. Both of those introduced into the state legislature a bill that says that only natural persons should have constitutional rights in the Minnesota Constitution. These are elected officials with great integrity. Do they accept corporate contributions to their elections? I don't know. But yes, and because I hope the Occupy movement goes on into the future until we make substantive change, I have no doubt that we will find candidates that will be willing to support one or the other or both of these concepts. Or even the concept of not accepting corporate funds. Al Franken, my recollection from several years ago is that he did not accept corporate funding as part of his campaign financing. I don't know. It's something I don't know if I have it in me to investigate something like that. But so is every person in government corrupt? Perhaps not. Let's find some that aren't. And let's either elect them to office or keep them in office.
David Allen. David Allen, will say more.
Well, my name's Dave Alden, I'm from Grand Rapids. I wanted to respond to one thing when somebody pointed out that getting money out of elections is important, and I agree with that. But it's not the only thing. If we don't control lobbying, once they're in there, the lobbyists are going to dominate whoever we elect, with a very, very few exceptions. I don't know if you know, but in the last decade, the healthcare industry had a lobbying budget for the federal government of $4 billion. I mean, and the banking industry was about the same. If we don't have control of lobbying and elections, we don't have much say in what goes on. The other thing I wanted to say was, there was a lot of this was a debate, and the two main speakers didn't, but others have a lot of criticism of the two groups. And it's pretty hard to criticize them because we don't really know who's all involved in each of the groups. But my point and my interest is move to Amemd. I think if we don't remove corporate persons and all this other stuff we're just not going to get anywhere. And so what I came here for, I wanted to hear how we at Grand Rapids, who are mostly liberal Democrats working on this issue, how we can react to more conservative people, not even necessarily Tea Partiers. We want to be involved in Grand Rapids with the business community, the small business community, which is really hurt by these large transnational corporations. They're getting the money, they're getting the benefit, and the small corporations are not. And small businesses, I should say. And what we want to do is work with these other groups. And if there are Tea Partiers that are so right-wing that we can't work with them, so be it. But we have to learn who they are. And we have to find the other people, because in order to get a constitutional amendment, we have to have it passed in 3/4 of the states. So we've got to reach out to a lot of other people. And that was what this meeting was going to be about, and I think sort of is about. It's really important we broaden ourselves from where we are. The people I work with, they're a pretty narrow group, and we're trying to reach out, but we haven't been super successful yet. We will. I'm sure Robin is right. I mean, there's no way this country can go on the way it is. We're going to have major upheaval one way or the other.
Next is Lara Sampson.
A real occupier like that.
How can you tell?
Working Tom. Hi, I'm Lara. I've been occupying since, I don't know, September, October, or something like that. I've been to Occupy Wall Street and DC, been pretty prominent here in Duluth. And being here tonight and listening to both Tea Party and Occupy representatives, the thing that just keeps coming to my mind is that we're all in this together. I mean, even amongst Occupy, there's dissenting opinions and there's divisions in tactics, and we're already by society so divided and conquered that we can't afford in this moment in history to be much more divided than we already are. And I really just hope that through all of this we learn to look past these differences and come together for the common good and harness this enthusiasm from both sides to really start making needed change. I'm originally Canadian, now holding dual citizenship, and I had to prove myself to this country. I had to pay money. My family was denied voting rights while we kept updating our visas. I had to test in. I had to learn what it meant to be American. And when I go toe-to-toe with what I've been told are my rights, I've been violently opposed. I'm full of bruises. I feel doing exactly that. And these bruises aren't just affecting me, they're bruises to everyone in this room. As soon as one person's rights are violated, all of our rights are violated. And I think we need to remember that and stay together for the better of our future and our children and everything that America could be. I feel that the best quote I could think of is, dissent is the highest form of patriotism. And, I see both sides trying to color outside of the lines. We might just be using different colors, but who doesn't love a rainbow? So we should try harder and love each other. That's all.
So I guess I don't have anything else much to add to the articulation tonight, but I guess I'll be the butt-headed jerk and reiterate that this is class warfare. This is rich versus middle class versus poor, and they each have different interests. When public funding gets cut for military spending or tax breaks, it is the poor who will die. That is a real thing. We are so concerned with and supportive of the rebellions happening in the Arab Spring that we don't realize our own rights as Americans to rebel and protest our own government are being taken away. Bills are being passed, and guess what? The bills are passing them because they are part of the ruling class. The Obama administration is not just a puppet for corporate interests. Corporate interest is a mask for the ruling class, and if we start thinking of it as that, if we start thinking in terms of class divisions and think about the interests of these class divisions, then things might start making more sense, and an event that wants to call itself a movement might actually become a movement. Thank you.
By the way, I just like getting up on a platform even more than I do on mic, so I'll speak from here. I just want to say that this is really what a town hall meeting really should feel, or does feel like, what they should be like. Really a nice expression of people's views. So I want to thank Nathan for organizing this and going to a men group that I think they're really making a difference in terms of our entire political process. Had I been able to get up a little earlier, I was curious in terms of what our mix was like here tonight. How many people were kind of liberal, progressive, Occupy leaning versus others who were conservative, Tea Party leaning. And because I think we needed that diversity to really have a good debate, but I'll leave it at that. But anyhow, thank you, Nathan. And again, I hope we can have more of these.
Nathan, can I say something?
Yeah.
My name is Cheryl Hager, and I'm from Superior. My husband mentioned this tonight, and I said, yeah, I'll go. I really want to thank you for putting this together. And the reason I say that is I'm not involved with either group, but I guess my tendency leans much more towards Occupy in the belief system and very far away from the Tea Party. But I also know that change happens and by being in people's faces. So I think you have to really press forward with that. But I think I came here tonight without an understanding at all of what the Occupy movement was even about. And if there's a way to get that message out, that what your purpose, what goals or where you're driving to, I think would maybe really help promote the cause, because...
Yeah. Could I answer that? Because I think there's a lot of media distortion. I think anybody who's never been to Occupy has a hard time knowing what it's about. Anybody who has a pretty easy time. I think it's about ending corporate personhood. It's about stopping corporate greed from undermining human decency. And I mean, that's pretty vague, but it's about regulating companies like BP so that they won't spill billions of gallons of oil into the ocean. It's about the 99%, it's a vision where the 99% would rise up and be able to overpower those wealthiest rulers. It's about protecting the environment from sulfide mining. We've got foreign corporations threatening to pollute the water supply here in Minnesota. We happen to have the cleanest water. I've lived all over the country where you can't drink water out of the tap. You'll die. And
those are the things you need to get out.
Yeah.
Because people like me see this Occupy going on television or in the news, no matter where it is, and I don't really grasp it.
I think mainstream media is out to say that we have no message and no vision, because they are the 1%. If you look at our signs, the media that says we have no message, they also film our message on signs everywhere. Every time, read the signs. I know they can read it. So ending wars, protecting the environment, ending corporate rule and corporate greed and underregulation, providing affordable health care for people. You know, that we're 45,000 people die every year because they can't afford health insurance. That's monstrous.
Good luck.
So, any other questions for me as this, kind of as an organizer of this event, or should we just, okay, Jesse?
Where does Occupy Duluth meet and when?
Where does Occupy Duluth meet and when?
Yeah, and who else welcome there?
Who's well? Everyone's welcome. Go to occupyduluth.org for more information. I'm from the cities, you know. I'm part of this is partially a scam on my part. I'm from here, but I live there. Lara?
You know, to answer that question, put it out there since it is now. Our next General Assembly is Saturday at 6 o'clock in the Paul Robeson Courtyard in the back of the Cozy Building. I know there's a stigma around town about that building, but it's also been in our community for over 100 years and has a lot of social stigma and history attached to it, and I think it's an appropriate place to be. We have food, friendship, and a fire, so I'd love to see any new faces.
Jesse?
Additionally, that was a trick question. Occupy is from community assemblies of the people that use a communication method that is meant to honor all of your perspectives and to allow everybody to express themselves in their due time and then walk away with a more involved position by listening, speaking, listening, speaking until you're all comfortable with what's done. So an assembly for Occupy Duluth or Occupy anything is people coming together and really talking and really listening and really following through with initiatives to do something to affect your community rather than waiting for some sort of leadership to come across or some elected leader to do it for you. You get together and you do it yourself.
Yeah.
And to make it even a little more clear, maybe if you go to the corner of First Avenue East and, First Street, East First Street and Second Avenue East, you're at that corner, you walk up Second Avenue East, half a block to the alley, turn in, enter through the back, you cannot miss the occupied courtyard.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great. It's great fun to be involved in Occupy movements everywhere. It's an experience that's truly democratic, and you know I highly recommend it. So we're going to adjourn, but I encourage everybody to sign up and take lit from the back. There's free buttons over there and all sorts of
This is mine. Can I ask you all to hold for just a minute? I read the article in the paper describing this get-together tonight, and several people that I meet with for coffee in the morning said, you know, I think that this would be something worthwhile attending, and that's why I'm here. I am a bleeding heart, dyed-in-the-wool Democrat liberal. And I really listened hard tonight to try and discern some sort of definition, some sort of identifying parameters of the Occupy group and the Tea Party group. And I guess I didn't hear it. And I'm not disappointed necessarily, because I think this is a great, great get-together that we had. This is my city, this is my state, this is my country, and it's not going down the tubes, in my opinion, because I'm not going to let it. And I know a lot of people that aren't going to let it happen either. And it's because of people like the Occupy group. It's like the people that are Democrats, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. And they know why they're Democrats. It's not a popularity contest. It's a studying of the historic platform of the Democratic Party. It's not one person like Barack Obama or Bill Clinton or Jimmy Carter or the Kennedys, or any of the other kinds of presidents that we've had that have been Democrats. It's the platform. It's the historic platform of this party. And what this country needs is this country needs educating each person. Each person needs to understand that, for example, if they're running around with their flag as a Tea Party person talking about, let's get rid of big government, let's get rid of this, let's get rid of that, that they're disenfranchising themselves. Many of them know that they're disenfranchising themselves, but the problem is many of them truly do not know that they are disenfranchising themselves by belonging to these organizations that are exclusive, so exclusive that they wouldn't even be included if they had to pass the white test. The kinds of people that are the spokespersons for the Tea Party, as an example, are the Michelle Bachmans, who you've never seen that hair out of place. Never. And the Sarah Palins, that always look perfect. But the people that are the occupied group, they don't, they don't look this wonderful because they're dealing with a different kind of issue. They're dealing with an issue of poverty. They're dealing with issues of disenfranchisement. They're dealing with issues of not being a part of the system. And this is a much harder message to sell. So I guess I'm up here just suggesting, I guess, that I'm very, very grateful that this event happened tonight. And I would like to see some kind of continued consciousness raising continue in the city of Duluth that would include these kinds of discussions. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, I just don't, I want to say one thing real quick, because I don't want to end on a note of like, hurrah for the Democratic Party. We got to be real about this. There's a big difference. I love the rhetoric of the Democratic Party. I love it. Oh boy, if only we did that stuff. But we don't, because we're bought out. The Democratic Party is bought out, and we have spineless leaders who are not taking responsibility for their own corruption. It's always about blaming the other side. It's about blaming the Republican Party. Oh, I had to cut a deal with Karen Ignagne of the health insurance lobby. That's why we couldn't have meaningful health care reform. Well, I'm sorry, but we got to wake up and we got to look at our own people and we got to hold them accountable. I hope you'll get involved with these two campaigns. We'll do it together.